What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to talk about how to bounce back from a bad season in your life. Let's dive in. All right, well, welcome back to the channel. As always, so grateful for your time and your attention. I want to talk to you today specifically about what do you do when you feel like you've been in a bad season, you've been in a rut, things haven't been going your way, you've been making poor decisions, maybe you were dealt a bad hand. There's a guy inside of our Woodworking Business Accelerator program that's just been walking through a really difficult season because he was kind of dealt a bad hand. It wasn't anything that he necessarily had a lot of control over. And so how do you bounce back from these bad seasons in life? How do you bounce back from maybe a season of just being extremely undisciplined? Maybe you've gotten out of shape. Maybe you feel lethargic. Maybe you've been in a kind of a rut with your mental health. Maybe you've been in a rut with depression or anxiety. Maybe you've been in a rut trying to figure out what to do with your business. And so how do you bounce back after a bad season? So we're going to make this very basic, very simple to understand and execute today. That's always my goal, is to give you actual practical application. I know that sometimes it's like, man, just tell me what to do, right? And so if you're in a bad season, the number one thing that you have to do, you have to value health first. There's a quote that says, you won't ever change until the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of changing. So you won't ever change until the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of changing. Listen, you have to pick your heart. You've got to pick your heart in this moment. Are you going to stay the same that you've always been and that be where your pain is? Or are you going to be willing to walk through a transformational season that's also going to be really challenging? It's going to be difficult in different ways, but you have to pick. Which one do I want? When it comes to your health, it's hard to stay fit. It's hard to stay in shape, but it's also hard to be super unhealthy, to be on medication, your body to hurt, for you to have low energy. That's hard too. So pick your heart. With your family, it's hard to be intentional. It's hard to be intentional with your wife and your kids, but it's also really hard to walk through divorce and tearing your family apart. In your business, it's really hard to drive the needle forward and be disciplined and execute, but it's also really hard to shut the doors and file for bankruptcy. So you have to pick your hard. You have to choose, which hard do I want, and is it more painful for me to stay the same than it is for me to change? If it isn't, you'll stay the same. You'll always stay the same. There's no motivational speech that I can give you. There's nothing I can encourage you with that's going to change your mind. You have to make up your mind that you're willing to walk through a transformational season because it's more important to you, and you're willing to experience that pain of change as opposed to the pain of staying the same. And so that's really the first step of bouncing back from a bad season, is number one, am I coming to the conclusion that it's more painful to stay the same than it is to change? If you are, that's great. That's your first step. The second step is simply developing a plan, a way out. So how do you get out of a bad season? Well, I wish I could say that you can just snap your fingers and in one day you can change everything and be out of your bad season, right? That's just not the case. It takes time. You didn't get into a bad season in one day. You got into a bad season by slowly not doing what you were supposed to do, or by something just being dealt to you that was outside of your control. But how do we get out of it? It's going to take time. And so we have to figure out, okay, what is the ultimate goal? What do I want to change in my life? What do I want to change about my health, about my business, about my finances, about my relationships, about my relationship with God, my faith? What do I want to change? And so you have to identify that and write it down. Put it down on something. What do I want out of life? What do I want? Then you have to reverse engineer those things all the way down to step one. What's the first step that I can take? What's the very first thing that I can do to take me to where I'm trying to go? Because so many people can't ever make progress because they don't reverse engineer it down to the very first step. They're looking at step 100 and they're saying, well, I can't do that, instead of saying, okay, well, what can I do? What is the first step that I can do today? So like, for example, if you are in tons of credit card debt and you're like, hey, I need to get out of credit card debt. I don't want to be in debt. Well, what's the first step? You can't pay off $10,000 of credit card debt today, but what can you do today? Well, you can quit buying stuff on your credit card. That's step one. Don't put anything else on the credit card. What's the second step? Oh, well, I can't afford to pay off $10,000 right now, but I have an extra $200 a month that I can put toward paying off this credit card. Okay. So the next step is, from now on, that $200 a month doesn't go to anything else. It goes to paying off that credit card. And it's the same way in every area of your life, in your health. Man, I'm 30 pounds overweight. Well, I can't lose 30 pounds today. But what can I do today? I can go work out for the first time. I can start watching what I eat. What about your business? It's like, man, I have been stuck. I've been stagnant inside of my business. We haven't increased revenues. We haven't been able to do anything. So what's the first thing that we can do? Well, we can develop a strategy, an action plan. How are we going to increase revenue? What are we going to do? Let me just say from personal experience with this, then you have to really stick to your guns on that for at least 90 days. I've come up with literally 10,000 plans before to increase revenue, and you have to give it 90 days. You have to run it hard consistently for 90 days and see what happens. So when you're trying to bounce back from a bad season in life, you have to, number one, identify that it is more painful to stay there than it is to leave. The second thing you have to develop is you have to develop a plan of action of how am I going to get there. And then number three is you have to be ruthless in your accountability to the plan. You have to be absolutely ruthless. So like there's no compromise. There was a movie that I saw one time and I remember it just resonated with me, and there's this line in this movie. I don't even remember what the movie was, but it said, "We don't negotiate with terrorists." And let me just tell you that compromise is the terrorist in your life that's going to keep you from getting where you're trying to go. And it's not like you're going to compromise a lot. You're just going to compromise a little. It's like, okay, well, I'm trying to eat good, but I'm just going to drink this beer. This is really good food. I'm just going to clean my plate off instead of stopping when you're supposed to stop. Oh, well, this isn't that big of a purchase. I'll put it back on the credit card. It's the little things that always stack up to make the big difference. And it's the little things in a negative way, and it's the little things in a positive way. We've talked about the book called The Slight Edge before, and it's this stack of little things that allow our lives to hockey stick in a positive direction. Or it's the stack of a bunch of little negative things that our lives go downhill quickly. And so we have to be really, really thoughtful about what am I compromising on? What am I not sticking to my guns on? It's those little things of not sticking to your guns that just erode your confidence and that erode your belief in yourself. And I went through a season, I'll be very honest with you guys, I went through a season like this about a year ago of where I kind of got in this kind of dark, depressive state. I was kind of discouraged, kind of anxious, and just not myself, really. And I looked at it and I finally realized that it was because I'd made all these promises to myself that I wasn't keeping. You know, I would set my alarm early to get up and be productive, and I'd sleep through my alarm. And I'd do it every day, right? I did this every single day. I wasn't working out consistently. I was just kind of lethargic and just kind of going with the flow, going through the motions. And the truth is, guys, is that I had to determine like, okay, I can't keep doing this. And so once I did that, it really allowed me to pivot, have a hard reset, and get back on my game of pursuing the life that I feel like God's called me to live. And so with that being said, I just wanted to walk you through this, again, not super woodworking related, not super business related, but I'm telling you guys, this kind of stuff is half the battle. You can have all the strategy, you can have all the tactics, you can have all the head knowledge, but if you don't understand yourself, you don't understand how to handle your emotions, how to display some grit, how to be honest with yourself, how to find some desire to learn new things. Like if you don't do these things, if you're not emotionally aware, you can have all the tactics in the world and you'll still burn your business down, burn down your marriage, burn down your relationships, struggle financially. So if you're wanting some resources around woodworking, handmade business ownership stuff, check out the free ebook below. We've had over 1,000 people read that book. I've gotten a ton of great positive feedback around that. The second thing to check out is if you're trying to get your handmade business to that elusive $10,000 per month mark, I've got an online program called the Handmade Hero Academy program that's going to walk you through how to do that. There's a link below for more information. And then lastly, if you're a woodworker in North America trying to scale to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month, check out the Woodworking Business Accelerator program. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up. Love you all. I'll see you in the next one.